Good evening, everyone. I call the regular City Prescott Council meeting to order. It is Monday, February 12th at 6 o'clock. Roll call, Bailey.
Here.
Maureen.
Here.
Pat.
Here.
Gar.
Here.
John.
Here.
And Lindsay.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Could everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, everyone. Next item on the agenda is public comments. The city will receive public comments on any issue related to the agenda item. Limited discussion by the city may take place. Okay, having heard none, next item is the consent agenda. The library board minutes from January 8th, city council meeting minutes from January 22nd, planning commission minutes from February 5th, tourism committee minutes from February 6th, general fund balances from January, cash balances from January, paid invoice reports from January.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the public hearing. Item number 1 is a report on a preliminary special assessments for the 2024 Elm, Kinnickinnick Street to Walter, and Washington, Walter Street to Wakota project. Greg?
Yeah. Can that be projected?
Yeah.
Just in case there were some questions. I was just gonna see if the report could be up on the display.
I just have the plan set, I don't have the report.
Oh, okay. I don't have the report as a PDF. I thought maybe the agenda packet was on here too.
I can pull it up if you can.
I guess if we have questions, that'd be fine. So the city had mailed out the preliminary assessment reports to all the residents along the route of the project. The report follows the city's assessment policy, which is to assess for curb and gutter and laterals. It includes a map showing the extent of the project and the property owners and the frontages which abut the street, and that would be the distances that would be used for the curb assessment. And there is an estimate of the project cost, and then an assessment schedule which shows the breakdown for all the residents, their curb length, and if they are on a corner, there's a corner lot credit. So if their corner on this street would be their shorter dimension, they would get a 50% reduction because of it being a corner. There's potentially 2 street projects over the course of a lifetime of a resident that could potentially have a curb assessment placed on it. And the sanitary lateral, if they have a sanitary lateral abutting the street project, and then their total assessments are there. But in general, the project includes a comprehensive reconstruction of the street, storm sewer, curb and gutter, sidewalk, sewer and water laterals are basically what make up this project. It's very similar to the Locust Street project from last year.
I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Are we going to slip line the sanitary like we did?
Correct. Yep. Yeah, we are. Yep. Yep. All of the sanitary manholes were newer precast manholes that were in good shape, just like Locust Street. So it made the slip lining of the pipe a very economical repair for the sewer.
Anybody have any questions or comments for John?
I don't know what side of the road the
Well,
sidewalk's going.
we'll open the public hearing.
We'll have to wait for the public hearing.
I have a question.
Yeah,
Will you identify if a homeowner has two laterals this time? I mean, because there was some confusion on the Locust Street project.
yeah, there was one resident on the Locust Street who did have 2 live laterals.
That was just a rare occurrence.
Very
though.
rare. I've
Yeah.
never, in 31 years, I've never seen that.
Oh, okay.
And we really thought one was abandoned. They did confirm that in the field when I was out there, that one was, they were both live.
Okay.
As part of this, I've added a couple more specification items that they have to coordinate in advance to verify, like, which of there are some duplicate laterals to the same frontage of a property. So it's a little unclear right now which ones might have been abandoned and left. You can still see its connection in the main. So that has been some additional enforcement on that, I guess, for this
Okay.
project.
Thank you.
So, to that point, if you did find 2, but everybody else has 1, I know that each house only needs 1.
Right.
It would seem to me, if possible, the smart thing to do would be to terminate 1.
Correct,
And just go
yeah.
with 1 rather than build a person for 2.
Well, there's stuff that the homeowner too is gonna incur in terms of costs, so it's not just,
They're gonna have to replumb their house.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
not a small order for a homeowner.
Okay.
Right, yeah, in that situation, last year, like I said, I've never seen that, somebody having 2 laterals to 1 home. It must have been something whether an addition was put on the house at some point, but there were a lot of laterals stubbed in on Locust Street. It was platted at probably for 66-foot lots. And then a lot of people bought 132-foot, and only built 1 house. So that's why you saw a lot of multiple old unused laterals. Not so much on this project, but there still are some duplicate laterals. And so we will, the contractor will be identifying which ones are live and not, and then coordinating with the homeowner in advance of doing the lining and then just simply slip lining through that old connection, because we don't need that one, to simply effectively abandon it then.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Have anything else for now, Craig?
No,
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the public hearing regarding preliminary special assessment report for the 2024 Elm and Washington Street project.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to open the public hearing. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing is now open. Anybody that wants to comment or has anything to say, please come up to the podium. Let us know what your name is and where you live.
If you have a question? Yeah. It's all good. We love
Nobody
to
will bite.
answer it for you, so it's not that big of a deal. Come on.
Let's be a celebrity.
Good though.
Thank you, Bill.
So my name is Shanna, and we are at 672 Washington Street. Trying to figure out what side of the road the sidewalk's going on. Is it going to be at the end of, if it's on our side of the road, is it at the end, or is it going to be in the middle of our yard? And how does this affect, like, we have a camper, and several people on our road have campers, and we park in our yard, and we might only have, 5 feet at the end of our driveway, once we put that thing in there? What do we do about that? Because I don't know that it's fair that we have to pay another $1,200 a year to store it during camping season when we have, in the 7 years, been able to park it in our driveway. And then, what are we gonna do about if the sidewalk is gonna be on our side of the road, dealing with the extra traffic and I know some of our other neighbors have had this problem where people are letting their animals crap in their yard. That's just bringing more of that, and I don't think that's fair for us to have to clean up after this and deal with this, This is where our kids play, and so those are our concerns, or some of our concerns at this point. that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you. Greg, you want to know what side is the sidewalk's going to go on, please?
Yeah. I can page through here. That's why having these are kind of helpful. If I can find 672. I probably can't read those addresses from up here.
We are the first block after Elm, where it curves.
Between Walter and Monroe.
Okay. I've got it on my drawing here.
They'd be on what I
Okay.
guess you would call the north side.
All right, so you're between Walter and Monroe, so I think it's the next page. 672. So I think you're right here, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this image doesn't show the house. I do have the house on another sheet. I'm wondering if... Is this the whole plan set? Yeah, it looks like it is. If I can get to a different sheet, it'll show a little more information.
You're 672, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see, I think I got one more up. Okay. Yeah, so it's like, you're right here. So you can see the house there. The right-of-way is, it's about, I don't have a scale with me, but the sidewalk is on your side. It's probably a good 10 feet from the right-of-way. This is a 5-foot boulevard, so the edge of the sidewalk would start 5 feet off the new curb. And so it shouldn't be extending, it is all within the city's right-of-way quite comfortably. I don't know if I can zoom in on this.
Is there a way to have a sidewalk on the edge of the yard, like it is going towards like St. Joseph's? Is that something the city's considered?
It's, I don't know, Matt, I mean, I could, generally in those conditions, the problem is snow plowing would dump right onto the sidewalk, and it creates a challenging snow plowing scenario. I've seen it used sometimes where sidewalks are tight to the curb, but the 5-foot boulevard, the grass area, gives a place for the snow plowing snow to go and the snow clearing snow to go, to be stored there effectively, so.
Could it be modified? I mean, I'm not saying it is or it isn't in our best interest. I'm just asking, can it be? If we chose to move it that way, is that acceptable?
It would create, you know,
I
it would
understand
create
it's gonna
some,
create the snow on the sidewalk.
it
That's a
would.
pretty serious issue, not having.
Well,
everyone
and
else
then so in terms of shoveling the sidewalk that's in front of a property, is that the,
It would make shoveling very
Impossible.
challenging. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you'd have snow banks, you know, from
wouldn't
the
be using
street
the
plowing,
sidewalk.
you know, on the sidewalk.
Okay,
I have seen it used, and of course along schools it's used, because students oftentimes have to get dropped off right, you know, at a curb line. You do see that quite a bit, but the schools have small, you know, like skid steers and things like that that they can clear their snow with around a school perimeter. It is often used there.
all right.
I'm just curious, I'm looking at this on the Google, and on that side of the street where the sidewalk is proposed, there are 4 houses that front that street. And on the other side of the street, there's 1 with a lot of yard space, but I do see power poles.
Yeah,
That
that
run
was
that
the
corner.
challenge on that. It's the power poles are kind of a challenge on the, would it be the south side or of
And
the
that,
street?
we don't have the ability to work with somebody to get those poles, get those
We've-
lines buried or whatever else with
We
it.
talked with Excel
about
Energy.
burying them at Public Works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really expensive, and it is three-phase power.
Yeah.
It was discussed, and I think the XL Energy said it would be something like, was it about like
About 200,000.
or $200,000 to do that.
Okay.
Well, Shannon, what was your concern about your camper?
So, being able to park it in our driveway, we're gonna put a sidewalk not on the edge of the yard, but now 5 feet in.
Right.
How does that affect that? I mean, you're asking us to incur not only the cost of this job, but now additional storage for our camper during camping season. It's a 35-foot camper. And you can't park that on the street all summer long. That's gonna, people are gonna complain about that. Now what do? Now
Well, currently, then, you're using the city's right-of-way to park your camper. Yeah, I mean, I just want to make sure you understand that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we've called the city about it and asked questions before we even bought it, about being able to park it in our driveway. That was 7 years ago.
Yeah, but we do.
Yeah.
But you don't own that, what's it called? The boulevard, that's, so.
So it's just, that was one of the things we were asking about, the sidewalk being at the end of the driveway, or even across the street. At the end, us homeowners are responsible for shoveling it and maintaining it. I don't know if anybody's driven down the road in the past winters, but every one of our driveways, we're out snow blowing, like, when there's less than a few inches, to keep it all clear. So if we're responsible for maintaining the sidewalk, should we have some kind of a say in whether it's possible to have this sidewalk at the end instead of in the middle?
The edge of the existing asphalt to the furthest side of the sidewalk to their home would be about 6.5 feet further to the house, based on, I don't have the scale right with me, but I'm looking at just to give a kind of a magnitude of how much that would be going in. It is still all obviously squarely in the right of way, very, very much so. But that would be about the reduction in the parking area.
6 feet, roughly?
6.5 feet, roughly. Yeah.
That's from our front step to where the sidewalk would be?
No,
From the
no, from
curb.
the edge of asphalt now going towards your house, it would be about 6.5 feet further to the house. So
That's where the edge of the sidewalk would be?
correct, yeah.
The start of it or the end of it?
To the-
The part closest to your
The
house.
part closest to your house. So yeah, the edge
You're
of the sidewalk.
you're losing roughly 6 feet.
So is the
Sir, you gotta come to the podium if you're gonna talk. Thank you. Nope. Go ahead.
Good evening. Jerry Zitta, resident of 452 Elm Street. To piggyback on kind of what Shannon was asking, and I think what a few other people are concerned about, I have a solution for that. No sidewalks and no parking lane. We don't need them. I want somebody to tell me why we do. After Locust Street was done, last fall, 2023, there was probably 10 times. I have the luxury that I have Fridays off. I work Monday through Thursday. At least 10 different Fridays, in the morning for half an hour, and in the afternoon for half an hour, prior to school starting, and after school got out. I walked down by the intermediate school, I guess it's called now. Any one of my visits, I never saw more than 3 kids use that sidewalk. Again, my wife and I are active. Maybe some of you may have seen us. We go running, we go walking. In our travels on Locust Street, most of the people that we see are still walking on the street. They're not using the sidewalk. I don't have an explanation as to why. It's just an observation. I also Had vacation the week in between Christmas and New Year's. Again, multiple times. I went down to Locust Street. I looked both ways. On all my observations, I never counted more than 3 cars in 6 blocks. And
On
this
the
is during,
street.
on the street, using the parking spaces. And this was during Christmas and New Year's, when I would think that there would be plenty of visitors, people off work. It's not being utilized. And it wouldn't be utilized on Elm either. We're 1 block over. The last meeting I was at, I was told that it's because there's certain residents on Elm Street that have, for lack of a better word, cutouts, gravel areas for people to park. I counted those. Those are 5. There are 5 cutouts in the 5-block length of Elm Street. I've been there 25 years. All of those cutouts were there prior to me moving in. They are extremely rarely used. The only time I see them used, 1 day a week, 1 day a year in September. Can you guess what day that is?
Prescott days.
There you go. The parade goes down Elm Street. That's the only time people are using those cutouts, either to park or to put lawn chairs and sit there and watch the parade. So, again, I refer back to my start. We don't need the sidewalk and we don't need the parking. We can keep our 10-foot in our yards, although as we all know and we've been told, they really aren't our yards. City owns the boulevard, has the right of way. And I've had this question for 25 years. If I don't own that, why do I have to mow it? And if you want to put a sidewalk there, why are you going to require me to shovel it? You own it. Do the maintenance on it. If that's the position that the city takes. A couple other examples. If you say it's so that residents along Elm Street or Washington Street can have visitors come over and they have a place to park, there's side streets. The most you would have to walk is 3/4 of a block from a side street around to the front of a house or to the back of the house. There's also an alley that runs for 3 blocks on either side of Elm Street. The vast majority of those people use that alley to access their garage or for extra parking. I don't see this as an issue for any permanent residents that don't have enough places to park. And if you want to take up, and I'm sure that Shannon is not alone, there's other people that are utilizing the city boulevard to park recreational vehicles, extra vehicles. Don't know where everybody at's in their life, but if you have a family with a couple and then children, and as they reach the age of 16, 17, now you might add another vehicle or 2. So there's a very short period of time when you would need extra space for extra vehicles that you couldn't accommodate on your own property. About, I don't remember the exact year, I'll just ballpark it, 8 to 10 years ago, Court Street, the next street over, was rebuilt. There's no sidewalk there, there's no parking spots there. Going back even farther, around 15 years ago, when I moved in, there were sidewalks on Elm Street. The city took them out. Why? And now you want them back? It's worked out just fine for 15 years. So, those are all my comments. I don't know if anybody else has anything to add. Either in agreement with me or not in agreement with me, either way. That's the way I feel about it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Brownell. I'm at 560 Elm Street. I just have a couple of concerns. I'm sure you all saw I have the largest lot down there. I have 238 feet. I also have 3 power lines on my block. So I think in the plans, I believe I have a 4-foot boulevard. Possibly a 5, if you can double check. And I think we just talked about a concern with 4-foot boulevard and all this snow that's gonna end up on it from the plows. So that leaves me with 238 feet of my own snow, plus what comes on from the road that I'm gonna have to maintain there. That's an awful lot if I can't have the regular boulevard size for that sidewalk coming through. And I'm one of those houses that has one of the gravel cutouts. Don't need it. I mean, if people are coming over for parking, there's side streets, they can drive, well, they can't drive into the yard if there's curb anymore, but there's just a lot of concerns that I have. Also, I know on our plot maps, I have 2 trees in my front yard that are probably a foot beyond where the sidewalk is gonna be, but they're not slated to come down. Those trees need to come down if we're investing this money in sidewalks, or those roots are just gonna destroy the sidewalk. So I don't know if that's supposed to be on me, or if that's on the city for those trees. I mean, if we're looking for curb appeal and trying to make things safe and everything else going forward, then I want some help addressing that stuff. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand it's my choice to have this large lot, and I know I need to maintain it. But I want to try and find some common ground there and safety with it, so.
Said it was 560.
560 Elm Street South, yeah, it's the last one on Elm Street.
Nice,
So-
big, beautiful triangle.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Cheryl.
And also, I don't know, one more thing. I don't know who measured or assessed, but if there's any chance they could come and remeasure, that would be awesome. Because I'm on a corner lot and I'm off by like 3 feet, so it'd be great if we could get an exact measure. I don't know how that works, but if I can request a remeasure, if that's even possible.
Yeah, we go off of the county's parcel map information.
Okay.
Record. We don't measure it, we go off of what the plat of
Okay.
the description of your boundary parcel is. that The
Okay.
county has on record, so.
Okay, thank you.
I can answer just a couple of her questions. So the boulevard, basically from her more north corner, does quickly taper from 4 feet to 5 feet. And it's 5 feet all the way to Walter on her side. One of the trees is slated to be removed because of where the water and sewer laterals are. But I would think if the other tree were preferred to be taken down, I mean, we've done that. We did that quite a bit last year too. People had requested other trees that were in the right of way to be removed, and additional trees were taken down. It is pretty inexpensive to take them down in a large project like that. So if that was a request that a person wanted, it was, if they were in the right of way, they were oftentimes just added to the project last year, so that could be done if you felt you wanted that one down too. It would look like from where we surveyed it, they're right on the right of way. So this, within probably the diameter of the trunk, and by definition, I think it probably puts it in the right of way. It's a gray
The
area.
concern is just with the roots,
Mhm.
being an old tree like that, they're no doubtly within 5 years gonna be starting to push that sidewalk up.
Yeah, if it was a tree you wanted down, we could certainly add that to it.
So my 4-foot at the long part of the triangle
Yeah, it's,
for the boulevard?
no, it's basically if you go from Walter and head up Elm, at the corner, at the intersection of Walter and Elm, it's more than 5 feet. And then it runs 5 feet until it gets past your last tree, and then it tapers gradually to 4 feet. So it's more on the other property owners to the north of you, where it goes to 4 feet.
Okay,
I can-
thanks, Frank.
Yep.
Anyone else? Anyone else? You need a motion to close the public hearing then?
Make the motion.
Second, the motion.
With a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is Resolution 0624, authorizing the preliminary assessment plan specifications to bid for the 2024 Elm and Washington Street project. Looking for a motion.
Do we wanna talk about
Driveways and sidewalks.
reconsidering sidewalks or no? I mean,
I think I'd like to talk about
It did come through as a request from some residents, so that's why it came up before, I believe, on Public Works. So I believe we've had several people reach out and ask for it.
yes, for sidewalks, yeah, that was my recollection as
Yeah.
well. This was a request of residents.
So just to clarify, our comprehensive outdoor recreation plan that was put together, I guess it was before I arrived, but basically there's a sidewalk plan within there that calls for a sidewalk on Elm Street.
Correct.
It goes the length of this street, and that's why this sidewalk is here, as opposed to Locust Street, which was a request specifically that was made
That
by
was-
residents.
By
at
the
time.
residents.
Yeah. So that's the difference between this project and the last project, why there's a sidewalk on Elm Street specifically, because it's a natural connection point. And I'm assuming that's why when they're looking at cross connections, like, for instance, in the future, when we reconstruct Kinnickinnick and Campbell Streets, there is also slated to be sidewalks added there as well, or a path that's to be determined at the time, but that's why the sidewalk specifically is in this street reconstruction plan is the time when that comprehensive outdoor recreation plan was designed and made.
I just see so much, I just see so much encroachment on people's driveways from, what the boulevard is, and, it's just so tight there.
Sure, and the plan calls for the exact same thing we did on Locust Street, and we've heard obviously very positive things from Locust Street residents, but obviously every person is different, and their views on sidewalks obviously is very different from person to person.
Now, the sidewalk that used to be on Elm Street was in very disrepair, and it was broken and beat up, and that's why it was removed. Because then the city's liable for broken, yes, sir, it was very broken up, and that's why it was removed.
But then why wasn't it rebuilt? Repaired?
So I guess I will just piggyback on that and say I agree. I don't know why it was repaired or what the thought process why we would remove it and then take the position of having people to replace dirt. I've heard that was the position that was taken on by the, at that time. I don't agree with that. If there's a disrepaired sidewalk, we as a city need to make sure they're maintained, and that's a very
I don't disagree.
decision.
I just know that that's what was done.
Yeah, but
It
I
wasn't-
think we can't be responsible for what a previous council did. We can only be responsible for while we're here in office. So, I don't know why I wasn't even living in town when the sidewalk existed on Elm.
So, I am concerned that if we
Public hearing
wouldn't go on
has,
Washington
you need to
Street-
come up here, please.
Oh,
We're gonna let them talk.
I understand that if Elm Street needs to have a sidewalk because it's a connecting?
is in the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. So
Okay, so if we were gonna do Elm Street, wouldn't it make more sense to be on the other side of Elm Street that actually is on the side as a school? So if children are using that and going to school, they're crossing one street, not two. If comprehensively, if we're not gonna continue a sidewalk down Washington Street, but we have to on Elm, then I feel like it would make more sense to be on the other side of the street if we're having a sidewalk.
I could show you.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the question. And we've looked at the route as you, let's see if I can. As you extend down Elm Street, see, I think this is the end of the project on Washington. you can see the rights of way are the dashed lines. This is a 66-foot right of way, and you can see how the road, we're fitting the road basically pretty much balancing roughly where the street currently is. But you can see how offset the right of way is. Like from this edge of road to this right of way is probably 24 feet. And Washington Street is like that. I don't know why. The homes are, very close. You can see the homes here are very close to the right of way. But we're working with the road because we're trying to keep driveways similar and whatnot. So as you come through the shift that occurs, the sidewalk goes on this side, and then you get to, I guess it occurs right here, this last block. There's nowhere to put a sidewalk here because of this right-of-way shift. The right-of-way is right here. I don't know why these symbols pop up. The right-of-way is right there, and the road is basically right there. And it would either be radically shifting the street, which I think would have much more implications to changes over here to make it fit than just a sidewalk 5 feet off the asphalt. That's what we talked about in the planning of it at Public Works. So rather than having it cross and then cross again, because you'd cross twice there to go the lane.
We have Locust Street running from where now? We have Locust Street running from the middle school to, help me out, where do we end that sidewalk?
Walter Street.
Walter Street?
Just to follow up as well,
Almost at 35. The
I'm
highway.
just looking, cause here's our comprehensive plan, so you have Elm going all the way down. So if we're running Locust all the way down, we could do that, but is there still any sidewalk between here and Monroe? There's no sidewalk existing from Kinney on Elm to Monroe right now, correct?
Correct.
So if we wanted to review that, we could flip it over to Locust only and not on Elm. If we want to do that or not. But I'm just saying, then you're changing your comprehensive outdoor plan.
Just to follow up as well, the reason additionally we wanted to control the only four-way stop, and the only stop along Elm is at Kinney and Elm Street, so that way that's the reason why the double crossing is there, is because it is as a four-way stop. They're the safest intersections. Additionally, as part of the reconstruction, we are doing bump outs to minimize traffic impact in terms of being pedestrian, so they're more easily seen as traffic is approaching them as well.
When we did the reconstruction of Locust Street was not slated to have a sidewalk on it. The residents of Locust Street wanted a sidewalk. That's why it got put in. Because the comprehensive plan was done years before this, and the sidewalk was always slated to get down Elm Street because it's a connector to, eventually to get to Freedom Park, and it was part of hopefully the sidewalk, safe sidewalks to school. That's why it was put into the comprehensive plan the way it was. But that was an add-on to the Locust Street project.
Mayor Doherty, thank you for that explanation. Wasn't aware that it was requested on Locust Street. Thank you. So if the sidewalk is slated on Elm as part of the comprehensive plan, could then just the parking be removed? That, I believe the parking is 6 feet wide? The parking lane?
8 feet.
8 feet. Okay, so now you move the curb out 8 feet because you don't need the parking lane, and people gain 8 feet of their yard back that they could use.
And then no parking along.
Because I still haven't heard an explanation of why we need parking there from anyone.
And then you'll have no parking along all of Elm, and everybody's okay with that?
I don't know. What you should have done, well, this is hindsight, what you should have done is a year ago, you should have sent out a survey to every resident on Elm and Washington and asked them if they wanted parking. I mean, we're the ones that live there.
So we've been having meetings on this, and it has gone to planning. These are all public meetings. Everyone is welcome to come. Everybody. What's that?
Some people can.
Come to any of them. And we also,
At night, you can't get to any meetings at night?
I've been at all the meetings, I'm not saying I can't.
Oh.
Some
Okay, hang on.
people can. 6 o'clock.
I'm just
Up
saying,
at the podium here, and we've already
Yeah.
closed the public hearing, okay? So we
He's-
need
Rob is being-
we need to stop unless
Yeah.
we're gonna reopen the public,
so,
okay?
yeah, yep.
Okay.
I'm just saying, so in terms of, do we want to bring this back to John's point? Do we want to have any additional discussion on it at the Public Works meeting that I have on next week on whatever day that is, Wednesday or Monday? I don't remember what day.
I do think the broader question too is if we're not gonna follow our own plans, we probably should make sure that we discontinue the use of planning in general.
Well, I don't
We have
want to go
plans that
like
we're
that
following.
extreme with it either. Like, I'm trying to come up with like a happy medium.
Well, I think also that, I mean, if the idea is to change the plan now, I mean, the people that are gonna show up are ones that are against the sidewalks, you should probably give opportunity then for feedback for people who maybe are for the sidewalk, because we did have a public informational meeting and we addressed a lot of these questions at that time as well.
What day was that, Matt? When was that? Was that?
January 8th?
No, and I do agree with that point, Matt. If you send this survey out, there's gonna be people for the sidewalks, and there's gonna be people against the
There-
sidewalks.
it's gonna be-
That's inevitable.
Yeah.
It's just, that's how these things work.
Yeah.
And neither way is right or wrong, it's just, this happens on every decision we make. Some people are on both sides of the fence, so. But again, I'm open to potentially exploring
The no parking.
removing that parking. I don't,
Would that mean that there would be no parking on Elm entirely?
I don't know, I have to.
I think the
Just-
street would get pretty narrow.
Just to be clear, I
So-
don't know of a full strength and length of Elm and Washington Street that we've just removed parking now, to the point we don't have striping on every street like we did on Locust Street. We did that specifically to try to better control and manage people on parking and while they're going
Right.
through.
Right.
But
And to
even Court
manage
Street is
traffic.
wide enough where
It
people
has
can park.
slowed down traffic on Locust. I live on Locust. It has slowed down traffic.
So, I guess, I'm not sure how you'd want to handle considering that if we're going to have every street design project go through a complete community review. Or we need to make that change now and start updating because we have other, you know, in the forefront coming, other streets coming up that we're going to have to change the process and.
Yeah, because this isn't a surprise that the sidewalk was going in and that the street project was gonna be done. We planned this long ago, and now in the 11th hour, you just can't, you know, if you wanna do that, that's gonna push back the bidding.
Right.
It's gonna push everything back, they're gonna have to redesign it. And so, I'm not telling you what to do, but that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I guess just to speak on behalf of the parking, you know, the Court and Laura is about 36 feet wide, I believe, or maybe 38, but there's parking on both sides, it's just not paint striped for that, because it's so wide. On wide streets like that, you know, they're usually not paint striped for parking, unless it's a downtown area. But this, Locust and Elm, they both kind of had varying pavement width areas, because they're just gravel shoulders, pavement edges. But it is 30 feet from the face of the curb to the face of the curb, which is a pretty narrow road. In fact, some people maybe, but it's a good size fit for that neighborhood, and it provides one lane of parking. There isn't a need for 2 lanes of parking at all. You know, we're trying to create an economical project and a project that fits the corridor and fits the usage. But indications from local traffic counts was Elm and Washington is more heavily traveled than Locust Street. And with that thought in mind, it would seem like parking on Elm and Washington would be, you know, a feature you would want if you, just to have a slightly wider street, rather than building it as narrow as it currently is, so.
Yeah, there is more traffic on Elm. I know that from because I use that corner a lot as you get out of the neighborhood.
Okay. We need to move on. We've closed the public hearing. So, once again, the next item on the agenda is Resolution 0624, authorize a preliminary assessment plans specification bid for the 2024 Elm and Washington Street.
I can't find the motion.
It's on your agenda.
Oh, there it is. Motion to authorize the resolution 06-24, authorizing the preliminary special assessment plans and specifications to bid for the 2024 Elm, Kinnickinnick Street to Walter Street, and Washington Street, Walter Street to Lakota Street project. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to approve Resolution 0624. Is there any other discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is reports of standing committees and commissions. Finance Committee proposed meeting Wednesday, March 13th at 5:30. That's still a good day, Matt?
Yes, so if that works for everybody, we would plan that meeting then. But I guess part of the reason it's on there is just to check with council to see if that would work for them or if that would not work for them.
And this is a workshop, or is this just?
This would be a finance committee meeting to discuss upcoming
Sure.
projects and how we want to handle financing them.
I can't commit to that date that week. I might be in town, but it's questionable.
I'm out of town.
What if we pushed it back a week to March
20th.
20th?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I'm back on the 22nd.
I can do the 20th.
I can do the 20th.
I'm good. I'll move it to the 20th then?
Yep.
Okay. Next item is the Planning Commission report. We met on February 5th. We reviewed and approved the downtown riverfront improvements, Phase 2. We had a lot of good discussion on the whole project. There were some issues about the need to borrow, because we are going to use the proceeds from to District 4 to pay for that. We're going to borrow it up front and then let to pay that off. They're going to put restrooms on our lot that we have down there. Talked about closing off, is that still Front Street? Closing off Front Street there by our house that we have between the condos and routing the boat traffic down around, and then making that a sidewalk and then tying that in with the sidewalk all the way across. So we did the project approved with 5-0. So we moved that to council. Then we did an update on the riverfront mixed-use development at 214 Front and 20 Orange Street. If it's going to go as it is, with the 4 stories, they're going to remove 13 parking spots along Orange Street due to the fire department can't get a fire truck in on Front Street, so they have to come in off of Orange. So we need more time to think about that. we're gonna have the landowners, contractors relocate 13 parking spots, like above Dakota Street there, but nobody was really overly thrilled about it. So we're kind of moving along with the fire department's recommendations on that. So if it moves forward the way it is, then we're gonna lose 13 parking spots on that.
And that is a major PUD planning too, because it's not,
Yes.
all right.
It would have to be, yes. And then we talked about the small box retail restrictions on zoning code, chapter 635. There's been a lot of pushback on having dollar stores and more stores of that kind. It was made a motion to send it to ordinance, to draft the ordinance for small box retail restrictions. It's gonna have to be very specific to very certain ones. We don't want to distract people from coming to our town. And that also passed with a 5-0 vote. And then we had an approval of the 2024 Planning Commission schedule. So did I miss anything, Matt?
No, I guess the small box retail ordinance was just a motion to drop the ordinance and bring it back to planning commission, just a clarification there. No ordinance was approved yet. We're looking into what language it would look in it. As the mayor stated, it has to be very specifically crafted in order to make sure that it deals with discount varieties like
I have
Dollar
a
Tree.
question about that. Is it legal to put into your ordinance that you don't want any more Dollar General stores in town?
Well, again, just to be specific, we're not calling out any sort of store specifically. Dollar General is a brand name, so that's an actual store called
Yeah.
Dollar General.
But it would describe us, but they're the only ones who fit into a small box store, right?
So
Harbor Freight.
we're working with our
Pharmacy?
city attorney right now to come up with language. So I guess I don't want to get too far ahead of what the language will say until we actually have it crafted and reviewed, and it'll come before you, obviously, before anything's enacted.
Go to Hudson and look around Home Depot and everything, there's 100 small box stores.
We talked about putting a moratorium on storage facilities. I mean,
In
we've
the
kind
state of
of thrown
Wisconsin,
that
you
around.
cannot do a moratorium. You can do a moratorium up for a year,
Oh, okay.
but you have to have rationale for why you're doing it for a year and what you're doing to try to rectify the issue of why you're doing it for the year. So if we're gonna look at storage, the way we look at storage is the two options we previously looked at, which we'd have to change our actual zoning code so that they would not be allowed in specific areas.
But you gotta remember, before you do those kind of things, you wanna be deterring people from
Coming, yeah, I
the
know.
city. For years and years and years, those lots sat empty with nothing on them. Now they have something on them, and it's being a productive project.
And
Yes,
generating revenue.
it's storage units. However, we gave them specific directions on what the buildings are supposed to look like and things like that, and they're following that lead. So, you want to be very careful and tread lightly before you start, calling things out that you don't want.
Yeah, I have a problem with that. If we start to get very specific
Sure.
about what kinds of businesses. I mean, I think we can advocate for the type of businesses, but to create laws specifically to outlaw certain types of businesses, I have a problem with that.
That goes against capitalism.
Well, no.
And we are always looking, and trying to come up with ways to generate revenue to offset expenses.
Yes.
And
I mean,
They pay taxes.
it's a pretty common thing. You start driving up north, go through Cumberland, when you're gonna see Family Dollar, Dollar General, you're gonna see
Yeah.
Dollar Tree.
So anyway, that
Dollar
was
store.
the deal on that. So that's probably gonna be coming around again. So the next planning commission meeting is Monday, March 4th at 6 o'clock. Parks and Public Works, Monday, February 19th at 5. Health and Safety, next meeting Monday, March 11th at 5. Personnel Committee for February 7th has been canceled and rescheduled for Wednesday, May 1st at 5 o'clock. Is that correct, Maureen?
Yes.
Okay. Then the next item on agenda is communications and new business. Public comments. The city will receive public comments on any issue not related to agenda items. Limited discussion by the council can take place. However, no action will be taken on any item. Okay, hearing none. Next item is Resolution 0724, approving the sale of real estate located at 911 Pearl Street between the city of Prescott and the Prescott Area Food Pantry Incorporated. Matt, you want to take that?
Thank you, Mayor. So I thought Mr. French with the food pantry was going to be here tonight, but apparently he is not able to make it. But in 2021, we as a city bought the building at 911 Pearl Street specifically for the reason that the local food pantry nonprofit that was in it was potentially going to be removed from the premise, or their lease was going to run out and not be allowed to stay within the building. So we as a city moved forward with applying for our community development block grant, and we ended up receiving those funds and purchasing the building on July 1st, 2021 for a total of $349,000 with the proceeds that we received from the grant. Subsequently, we moved forward with the grant, also called for a senior meal prep kitchen, renovations to the food pantry area, and then also the addition of COVID-19 testing location. As during that time, obviously, as we all remember, that was the height of COVID-19 in 2021. On the June 13th, 2022 meeting then, the City Council approved agreement for the sale of this building to the Prescott Food Pantry once the building was fully renovated and completed for the cost of $1. As part of that agreement, the food pantry agrees to not transfer any interest in the property within 15 years of transfer to them. This was part of the community development block grant, is that building has to stay a food pantry and meal prep and testing location for at least 15 years. If not, there's a couple other contingencies, but if for some reason those provisions were not met, the property would then be forfeited back to the city of Prescott. So before you tonight is the purchase agreement for $1. And right now the closing is scheduled for March 15th, 2024. Per the agreement also, we are splitting the title insurance with the food pantry. Our city attorney has drafted the purchase agreement that's before you, and that is attached. If approved, then we would move forward with title insurance and the deed for the property. So with that, I'll turn it over to council for comments and questions.
Motion to approve Resolution 0724.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 024, approving the sale of the real estate located at 911 Pearl Street between the city of Prescott and the Prescott Area Food Pantry. Any discussion on the motion?
Just a question. How much of I think grant money, I think is the right word, were we able to obtain for that project? I think you said it, and I just missed it.
Yeah, because we originally got a total amount, and then we had to go back and get it amended a couple times.
Right, because that kept being delayed, and then the costs went up.
I didn't.
Roughly.
I didn't put the final total of what was received, but I think it was around 1.3 million.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And that was grant.
It was all community development block grant.
So we received 1.3 million in grant money to invest in that property.
We,
For
one
the
of the
community.
contingencies, we had to spend 25,000
Right.
as a result of overages.
It's a pretty good trade-off.
Yeah, 1.4, I think it was actually.
Any other discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Next item on the agenda is Resolution 0824, approving costs and construction of parking along Dakota not to exceed $60,000. Matt?
Thank you, Bear. So we had put together a plan in working on putting together more parking along Dakota to add about 16 to 17 parking spaces. This would be in addition to the 10 spots that we added in 2020 that are already completed along Dakota. Similarly, when we did those spots, these are planned to be constructed by our Public Works Department. As you recall, all those spots, and additionally the ones along Cherry Street, the parking lot there was constructed by our Public Works Department at that time. Based on previous constructions and construction of those spots, working with the Public Works Department, they estimated that they need about $60,000 in supplies. They don't think it will exceed that. A few caveats, or a few things that will be included is a guardrail, so obviously nobody goes beyond the spots and goes down the hill. Construction of steps connecting that lower level parking on Cherry to that upper level of Dakota Street, and then striping the parking area as well. One of the things that's not included, and that will be brought to you at a separate time, we've discussed putting in lighting for these parking spots. That cost estimate would be brought later as we work with Excel Energy to get those costs. We don't expect, or I should say, the asphalt paving contract would also be brought later. That would be within that $60,000 that we're asking for approval tonight. The funds for this work would come out of tax increment district number 4. This is currently not within our capital improvement plan. However, since the expenditure period ends for TID number 4 in March of 2025, the project is proposed to be moved up to 2024. As a result, we did ask Ellers to do a TIF run or a TID run for this particular district, and you can see before you the projects also is attached as that complete run. But based on the analysis by Ellers, the proposed projects that we have all coming out of TIF 4 would still leave a cash balance of about $84,906. So with that, we're requesting moving forward with that construction in 2024. And right now, with the weather being unseasonably warm, Public Works actually believes they could start it already once they get approval, if that is something that is approved. So I'll turn it
Motion
over
to
to Council
approve
for
resolution
council
0824 coming out of TID 4 not to exceed 60,000.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 0824, approving costs and construction of parking along Dakota not to exceed $60,000. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, Bailey?
Aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Dar?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lindsay?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried, thank you. Is there any other business?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
We have a motion, a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good